I can't help but look at going through benzo recovery, dependence, withdrawal, the whole crazy process. I mean, it really is quite the journey through hell and back again, right? But I can't help but compare it to some kind of film, or some kind of epic story that involves our life. I mean, this is our epic story. Chances are this is probably the most traumatic, profound experience of your life. Many of you are fighting for your life, terrified. I mean, the stories I hear as a benzo coach, not just to mention my own story, which is pretty crazy, but I mean, I've heard far worse stories. And just, it's unbelievable the things that we can come back from. But you really can't help but look at this as some kind of montage or some kind of epic moment in your movie of your life. And I tell people, if this were a movie, this is the most important moment. This is the moment everybody is watching in a theater. This is the moment you don't want to miss. You don't get up and get refills or go to the bathroom. This is the moment where the hero is down and we don't know if they can come back, and they have to kind of undergo a transformation, a real transformative process, or they're undergoing that process. It's the montage right before. Well, really, it's the montage, and it's the big fight at the end. It's the big, showdown with the antagonist. In this case, Benzo's. But this is the moment, and I think it helps to frame it that way. To look at it and say, yeah, this is the most profound moment of my life right now. What am I going to do? How am I going to act? If how am I going to behave? What am I going to fight back? Am I going to lay down and die? And if they made a movie about me, if they wrote a book about me, if my kids read that book, if my family and friends read that book or watched that film, what is it going to say about how I handled this moment? And it really reminds me that everyone loves a comeback. Everybody loves a comeback story. I've heard just accounts and stories from people that you would not believe. Just you go, how did you survive that? How did you fight your way back? But I'll tell you, it's so motivating hearing these success stories, hearing people come back from incredible things, being ripped off incredible amounts of their meds, cold turkey, dragged through rehab, maybe disowned or shunned by family and friends, and losing things, and just really being on the edge, and then crawling their way back. And not just crawling their way back and surviving it. It's not like surviving a grizzly bear attack where you're sort of left maimed and disfigured. I mean, but these people come back, and they come back better. They learn from this. They become more resilient. They become stronger. They become more loving. They become motivated and have a purpose now. Everything changes. I mean, the way they approach their mental health, the way they approach their physical health, it's such a perspective changer going through benzo, this benzo withdrawal nightmare. Well, at least it can be. On the other hand, it can break you too. I mean, you can really just be left out there in the woods alone, broken, laying on the ground, and just really given up, just too beat to fight anymore. And that's sad. It's a sad story, but that happens all too often as well. But often I never think we're all down and out, as long as there's still a heartbeat, as long as we're still able to fight. So if you're laying there and you're feeling like my montage is over, I'm down. Well, think about like every Rocky movie. Even after the montage, he's fighting, and he has that moment where he gets hit, and you're like, oh my God, they're counting, and it just doesn't seem like he's coming back. And then he comes back. And it's like the closer the count to 10, say in boxing, in Rocky, if Apollo hit him and he falls to the canvas, and you're like, oh my God, he just got beat. Is he going to get up? And then 2 seconds later, he jumps up and beats up Apollo and wins. You're kind of like, okay, great. But the longer he lays there, every second that goes by that you're counting 4, 5. Oh my God, is he going to 8? Not, and he gets up right at the last moment. And you go, oh my God, he got up. And he just starts fighting back. And that's what drives the human spirit, you know? Like that's what gives you that feeling in your chest. Like, oh man, yes. You know, that's what inspires you. It has to be difficult. You know what I mean? It has to be difficult, guys. So just some thoughts. If you're laying there on the ground, on the canvas, and they're counting and you think you're out, you're not out. As long as you got a heartbeat, you're not out. As long as you have a will, even if it's 1 ounce within you, you can fight your way back. You can start small. You can start with baby steps if you have to. You know, in my story, I talked about walking to the mailbox and back. I was a pretty athletic guy. I would jog upstairs. I lifted weights and took martial arts and hiked, and you know, I was very active. And so to come back and be so debilitated that walking to the mailbox and back was my big adventure of the day, my big exercise. Yeah, super soul crushing. You know, starting to lift weights again when I was a guy that could stand there, curl single arms, 50-pound dumbbells. Now I'm lifting 2.5, 3-pound dumbbells. I mean, at some point, you just feel so defeated. You're like, why even bother? Like, why even bother? Well, you bother because in your DNA, in your heart, in your soul is a drive to survive, to push forward, to come back. I mean, it's, again, going back to the stories in every film, whether it's, what's that one with Will Smith where the Independence Day, when the aliens come, you know? I mean, these movies highlight the human spirit, that no matter what catastrophic event, no matter what devastation, no matter what we lose, the human spirit is keep going forward. Get up. Get knocked down 9 times, get up 10. Keep moving forward. That's being a human. That's the human spirit. And I say this not to put pressure on you, and certainly not to kick anyone while they're down, but to motivate you, hopefully, to say, listen, get up. Get back up. Don't give up. Push forward. Fight this thing. You can do it. I did it. So many people do it. I've got clients that are 70 years old that were ripped off their meds after 20, 30 years, 40 years. They fight back. Had clients that lost 2 of their children and went through incredible Benzo journey on top of that. Divorce, loss of business. I mean, really to the point where you can't lose anymore. And they fight their way back. And again, I don't mean fight their way back and they just survive. But they come back and they're stronger. And like I said, everybody loves a comeback story. It's the greatest. It's the greatest. Even in stories where you've failed and it is your fault, or you committed a crime, or you've done something really wrong, you've committed this great sin. People still love comebacks. They love for you to win. They want to see you learn and come back change. It's so inspiring. And it's essential to it's in our DNA. And that's why it's so inspiring, because when we see it, it's not like inspiring in a way of watching a person fly with their, by flapping their arms and going, wow, that's a magical and motivating moment that will never happen. That person just flew. But this is something that taps into the core of your DNA, the core of what it is to be alive. Life, I think, is meant to be lived. And there's this drive pushing us. And on the other end of this, when you are on the other end, and you will be on the other end, I promise you, life's going to look different. You're going to be so much more thankful. Colors are going to be brighter. You're going to be at more peace. And you're going to look at things around you that happen, like, bad things, and you think, doesn't even matter. Car engine blows, lost a job, betrayal from a friend, hole in the roof from a storm, whatever it is. And you just go, you know what? I survived benzos. I crawled back from the brink of death. And after that, if I have a heartbeat, I'm healthy. I've got even one good person in my life around me. even if it's my dog or my cat. You know, I have a heartbeat. I'm moving forward. People love a comeback story, guys. Make this your comeback. You know, make this your movie. Make this your moment that inspires people around you. Maybe inspires your children. I mean, think if you have children that are young, think about what's the message to them. What if when they're 20 years old, 25, 30 years old, 40 years old even, and they happen, God forbid, and end up in a situation like this? What do you tell them? Do you tell them to give up? Do you tell them it's too hard? Do you tell them to lay in bed? Or do you tell them fight? Do you tell them it's going to be okay? Do you tell them not to give up? And can you take that advice? Can you take that love and compassion? Can you turn it around on yourself? That's tough. It's very easy. I mean, even I talk to other Benzo coaches, and they're great at motivating people, inspiring them, telling them to believe and giving them the tools. But then they sit there and they suffer. Like we all do that. We're all good at giving advice, but not taking it, right? Like, it's hard. And that's why it's hard. It's harder to take your own advice than it is to give it. That's for damn sure.